Spaceship has landed. True logic. All right. So today we're going to discuss women's bodies, right? And the inspiration for this particular post for me came from a post that I saw on someone's Instagram. I have no idea who because I don't follow this person, but it said, "Shout out to women who don't have to get half naked in order to get a man's attention, comma, stay classy." Right? And I have so many disagreements with this statement, right? This perspective creates a class distinction that is dangerous and shouldn't exist. It further perpetuates a rape culture, right? And let me explain what I mean. Well, fundamentally, this is about rhetoric of the body and who decides what you do with your own body, right? The fundamental question that I'm asking here is, why should a woman be considered less classy because of how she dresses, right? To me, it seems like there's an illusory correlation here. How someone dresses is a cultural matter, a matter of personal taste, not a matter of character. There is no real relationship between an individual's style preferences and an individual's character. Style preferences are more related to an individual's personality. While character and personality can influence each other, they are not the same. Character is about the moral traits of an individual as is influenced by biological and psychological factors. Personality, on the other hand, is also influenced by similar biological and psychological traits. However, personality is also heavily influenced by certain social factors which have nothing to do with individual character, right? Also, remembering the ultimate function of classism is to create hierarchies which places some people below others. And then applying that to the situation and context at hand, one has to ask oneself, how does creating such a class hierarchy in this type of situation help women or society at large, right? Well, to me, it seems like it pits women against each other based on an arbitrary class distinction and gives justification for the mistreatment of women. What do I mean here? Well, the kind of attitude is the same one behind the type of reasoning which asserts that a man has a right to sexually harass or assault a woman because of how she dresses, right? It also highlights problems where marginalizing and discriminatory rhetoric is used to control women and how they think of their own bodies, right? What do I get at? Particularly, this attitude tends to reinforce traditional patriarchy, which subjects the behavior, opinions, etc. of women to the approval of men or standards that were created by men, right? For example, consider the controversy over the current Alabama abortion law, right? Under this law, all abortions are considered illegal unless in cases in which not having an abortion would be a significant risk to the unborn child's mother. Now, this law does not criminalize women who get abortions, but it does criminalize and heavily penalize physicians who choose to perform abortions. Performing an abortion is punishable by up to 99 years in prison under this Alabama law, right? Yet, this law was primarily promoted by men, right? And here's my issue with this. Well, men have very little phenomenal understanding of what it's like to be a woman, especially as it pertains to the experience of childbirth in pregnancy, right? It seems to me unjust that men have the authority to decide whether or not a woman should keep a baby inside of her for 9 months and go through the birthing process without any understanding of what that physical experience is actually like. Also, this is often demonstrable in the types of statements certain lawmakers have made on abortion, right? By suggesting it as a cop-out for irresponsible women that want to wash away their sexual sins, right? And this perspective entirely ignores the emotional trauma associated with the decision to get an abortion, right? It's not as if women out there are just like, oh, it's Tuesday, today's abortion day. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a lot of emotional turmoil. It's a very difficult decision for a lot of these young women to make. But nonetheless, it's a decision that they have to make and should have a right to make in regards to their own bodies, right? But the perspective which opposes, women's rights to do these types of things, it's an attempt to regulate female behavior by attacking their sexual activity, right? The underlying tone there as well, if you weren't so promiscuous or you behaved sexually in a particular type of way, you wouldn't be in this outcome, right? So it's a underlying subtle attempt there to further body shame women in what and how they do with their bodies, right? Yet this same type of shaming is rarely done by men, right? Or rather done towards men, right? I mean, it's talked about, a guy, I get high-fived if I sleep with 50 women. A woman's a hoe if she sleeps with 50 guys. You know what I mean? And the difference there is about who gets to decide in society what behavior is acceptable for who, right? And again, it seems to me like in these contexts and cases, and traditionally speaking, in America's patriarchal society, it's usually men making that decision on behalf of women, as it was in the case of the Alabama abortion law, right? Also, when we examine such perspectives at their root level, it becomes clear that these beliefs are ultimately about arbitrarily controlling women and how they think and what they do with their own bodies, right? Okay, for a more culturally relevant example, all right, consider common attitudes some men have towards women who are Instagram models, referring to them instead as thoughts, right? But in reality, these are business women, right? They present a service, indoor form of entertainment, and collect followers and leverage this into entrepreneurial opportunities. Many men, however, suggest these women are hoes because the service or entertainment they offer is their body. Yet, honestly, many of these same dudes strike me as the same type of guys who would call a woman they wanted to fuck a hoe because she had sex with a different guy other than him, right? You know guys like this, right? All right. The real problem these men have with these Instagram models is that in the case in which these women have full and total power over their bodies and especially their sexuality, right? In these particular type of cases, it's the women deciding for themselves how their bodies and sexualities are presented and controlled, right? Men don't get to decide what these women post on their Instagrams or how they post, right? And you have to consider the full range of history when examining this subject matter, right? And the fact of the matter is that in history, especially U.S. history, which has been largely patriarchal, often men have been the ones making these decisions, right? How women can dress, what they can wear, and so forth, and what they can do, right? At one point in history, a woman couldn't even own property and had nothing once her husband died. This forced women naturally to depend on men, which again is truly the ultimate objective here, reinforcing the idea that women need to be qualified or justified by men or men's standards, right? I mean, a woman should not need to defend her character in class simply because she chooses to dress in a manner that some consider provocative. An important part of a democratic and pluralistic society is giving people freedom and space to be themselves and allowing them to express who they are without having to justify why they are. And that is true logic. Spaceship, blast off.